Hi, I'm Sean O'Donnell, and today is going to be a video that I don't really ever do, have never really done. It's going to be kind of like a solo podcast type of video. The purpose of which being whenever I do question and answer on my Instagram, whenever I have people just send in whatever they want, every single time it comes up, why don't you drink? Why are you sober? Blah, blah, blah. And I never share personal stuff on Instagram, like ever. It's not the place for it. I've always felt uncomfortable doing that, and even your most like genuine and authentic influencers, they're still just picking and choosing what to show you. So it's not something that I've ever done before, because I don't like my personal life and stuff being out there, but this is a subject that keeps coming up because there's a lot of people that are struggling, or they're looking for someone that they can relate to a little bit and maybe have a little help and guidance. And let me be very clear from the beginning. This is like, I'm not a professional, I'm not a doctor, I'm not any of those things. I'm just talking about my experience with drugs, alcohol, dealing with people in that scenario, and all of which that comes with it. And right off the bat, I have to say that I have tasted alcohol. I've had a sip of wine, I've had a sip of beer, just so that I know like what they taste like. They're awful, I hate them. But if you added up all of the alcohol I've ever consumed in my life, you could maybe fill up like half a beer can, which is why I can say, or why I feel that I can say I don't drink, I've never drank, because it's like literally a sip here and there, just so I can like, oh God, the taste of gin, disgusting. Yeah, you get my point. So the question that I get every single time is why, 29 years later, why do you not drink? Why have you never like tried to drink or care to? And perfectly valid question. There's a couple reasons. First of which being I grew up and my father's been sober my whole life. He's been sober 32 years now. And also anyone that I reference in this will be considered friends or family. That's how I'm going to go about it, because anonymity is so important, so important. I will reference my father and his journey just because I know that he's okay with it and he sees it from a place of helping people become educated, understand it a little better, and potentially help someone. So, and he has given me, that blessing to talk about it. Back to the point, my father's been sober my whole life. And so I grew up in a very open household where he talked about why. He talked about his past and, all of what he did. And the thing is, he's told me stories my entire life. And while, they're funny in the moment and some of them horrifying, he will always end it with, but my life is a million times better now. So I had that from a young age where I was like, this is maybe something to, be careful of. And then when I was growing up, my brother, he's 4 years older than me. So I was a freshman when he was a senior in high school. And so I watched him go through like the high school party phase and feel all that stuff out. And I remember going to high school parties because I made the varsity soccer team when I was in 9th grade. So I got to go to all the senior parties with my older brother. And I remember it was terrifying. It was so scary. It was so scary. I remember this kid, Aiden, just putting his fist through the drywall of Noah Smith's basement. And I was like 14, and I was like, what the hell is going on? It was just so scary to me. And I remember just thinking, I don't want to be or act like that. It just scared me, which brings me to the third and kind of biggest point was my anxiety. When I was like 13, I had a really horrific anxiety episode. They thought it was a seizure. It was so bad. And since that moment, I had really horrible panic attacks, and they would result in the form of like seizing. So it was a little extreme, it was a little dramatic, and the likes of which were brought on through feeling out of control in whatever situation, and that the situation could result in harm to me in some capacity. So I remember actually at that party that I just referenced, it was the first high school party I went to. It was the first like soccer party of the year in the fall of 2009. And I remember thinking, I have to do something so that like people don't bully me for the rest of the year of like, oh, freshman has to drink this and that, because, high school. And me and my best friend, Evan, we did keg stands and then ate a habanero pepper. I don't remember why. I remember finding out that I was allergic to peppers through that because I had such a reaction. My throat didn't close up or anything, but I remember my lips went so numb that I started bleeding because I was biting through my lips because I couldn't feel them. And I remember Brittany Lamandola was being so kind to me, was trying to find me like bread and milk in Noah's house. Regardless, the whole point of doing a keg stand was, in my head, I went, I'm going to do this thing publicly. I'm going to drink this one time. So that for the rest of the year, when people come up to me and they're like, oh, like freshman's got to drink this or that, I can say, oh no, I'm just not tonight. Like I'm driving my brother home or whatever. And they'll remember that first party of the year, and I can reference that and they'll be like, okay, he's good. Like I've seen him drink before, because high school kids are moronic. But I gotta say, the plan worked flawlessly. I had like 2 mouthfuls probably out of that keg stand when I was 14, and I never drank again really. But it was always coming from a place of feeling out of control, and that was terrifying to me because I never knew what was going to happen, and I watched other people make absolute fools of themselves and make horrible decisions, and I just didn't want that to be my life or my experience. So all that being said, as to why I don't drink, the next question is usually, do you ever think about it? Do you regret that decision? Blah, blah, blah. And short answer, no. I've never once in my life looked back at a situation or been in a situation in the moment and went, damn, it would be a lot better if I was like tipsy or drunk right now. I've never really felt that way, and I'm very happy that I surround myself with friends that they certainly drink and they have a good time, but they are never like belligerent. Once or twice a year, usually Halloween and usually one time in the summer, I'm like peeling someone's face off the bar, which is hilarious. If they're doing it every week, not that funny. Once or twice a year, kind of funny. And my boys know that, which is great. So I'm happy that I have, my friends around me who have some sense about them. I also want to be very clear. This is not me necessarily pushing my lifestyle on you. This is me talking about my experience. And if it resonates with you, that's phenomenal. I'm just saying it works for me. Maybe it might work for somebody else. That's all. There is like zero judgment here at all, which is a very, very big part of being sober and also helping and supporting other people that either want to be sober or currently are sober, because support and love goes much further than guilt and shaming and being an asshole to somebody. So I just want to make that terribly plain. And if you are one of those people that maybe wants to be or is looking for some type of help, guidance, whatever it is, I have to say you got to get pretty comfortable with yourself, which is difficult for a lot of people. Going into every single moment painfully sober, it can be a lot sometimes. Obviously, I don't know the difference of going into it drunk or tipsy, but knowing that every decision is your own, you have nothing to hide behind, that's a lot for people. And after going out a lot over the last 15 years and being, stone cold sober, you get comfortable with yourself and dealing with morons pretty much, because like that's just what happens when people drink. And you're going to have a lot of moments where your patience and your calm is tested, but that's just part of it. It's funny though, I've never once had a bad reaction to someone finding out that I don't drink, like in the middle of a party or anything. I always get one of two things. First one being, I wish I could do that. That's like 80% of what I hear, which is, an interesting comment. I'll let you dissect that yourself. But the second thing is always, do you know how much money I'd have? Which is like a hilarious observation that most people go to that immediately. And it's true. It's so much money. It's so much money, to the point where like, I know the cost of living, and I've lived all over the country, and I know like what a lot of my friends make money-wise. I don't understand how people do it. I genuinely have no idea how people survive in this day and age and just go out every weekend. I don't know how you do it. Maybe I'm naive to the fact that like a lot of people have financial help from other people in their life. It's just, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But there is one thing I've learned from dealing with a lot of addicts here and there is they'll figure it out. They'll find a way. There is no one more determined to get something done. And if that means finding some money to go drink or do some drugs, they'll figure it out. And like, respect, I guess. It's crazy. Most of the places that I've ever gone out to in my life are in my hometown. And it's a small town don't really pay for drinks because, know all the bartenders, friends with people, or it's like heavily discounted. And there was a time like 7 or 8 years ago, which shows you how infrequently I go out, where I was out in New York City and I ran into this girl that I knew years earlier. We hadn't seen each other in a long, long time. And we were both at the bar, and I was getting a cranberry club soda, which is always the go-to drink when I'm at a bar. And I saw her and I was like, so great to see you, blah, blah, blah. We're having this conversation. I said, let me get you a drink. And she ordered a drink, and I get the bill back, and it was like $22 for this one drink. And I was like, how do people do this? How do people do this? Obviously, I know New York is an exception. You get my point, though. It's insane. It is pretty remarkable, though, as I get closer to 30 years old, whenever I have this conversation with people, it's more and more leaning towards the responses being, I'd love to talk to you more about that, because it's something that I struggle with. And, when I was 22, 23 talking to people about it, it was what I just said, where people are like, oh, I wish I could do that. And they kind of say it flippantly, or how much money could I save, blah, blah, blah. As I get older, people are just a little more self-aware, and they're understanding that maybe I should talk to somebody about it. And so I've been having those conversations more, and it's with people that I grew up with, when I see them out. Like I will this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, I'll see people, and it's interesting. I usually have that conversation because everyone that I grew up with knows that I don't drink and never have. Which also brings me to this. If you are someone that I know, or not at all, and I don't know what clips are going to come out of this video, like onto social media, but I genuinely mean it, you can absolutely reach out to me and we can have a conversation about sobriety. I've dealt with a lot of halfway houses, facilities in general for treatment, therapists for children of adult alcoholics, siblings of alcoholics, the whole 9 yards. And of course, your anonymity is protected there. But if you are somebody that wants to have a conversation, DM me. If I don't know you, if I do, like I said, whatever, please. Anything I can do to help, I really mean it, because I know how important this is. Just know that. Yeah. I'm going to add that to the end of any clip that comes out of this. So, okay. And it's interesting, one of the main conversations that I have when I do get into it with somebody about their struggling with drugs or alcohol, a lot of it comes down to their friend group and how they just drink and do drugs and feel that pressure to participate because they're going out with their friends, or that's what their friends do. And it's hard because they know what I'm going to say, and most of it is like, you need better friends, And I've helped people with talking to their friends and how to address them with the fact that they don't really like the lifestyle that they themselves are living, and that their friends are, helping that along. And I've seen phenomenal outcomes where their relationship with their friend has gotten a lot better, and the two of them, or the three of them at times, have changed parts of their life. And I've also seen the other side where you need better friends and that relationship ends. But it's difficult because it's something that every single person has a connection to. You all know somebody that, does too much. And that could be you, that could be a family member or whatever. And it's really difficult, I'm super proud of my family because we talk about it a lot. And we've had a lot of friends and family that have gone in and out of facilities. I've brought people to rehab myself, and I've dealt with the process that goes along with it a number of times. It's really very, very difficult. It is. I've talked about it with my father, who, has given me permission to talk about pretty much all of this. And, he's been sober 32 years now. And he talks about how it's the greatest thing he ever did in his life, because he would not have a life without it. And he was bad. He was bad. And he's a shining example of, what your life can be with 5 kids and a wife and a great life now. I'm not going to get too far into that because I'll go off on a tangent, because I am incredibly, incredibly proud of him. And something that needs to be said whenever talking about going to rehab or treatment in general is, it's a long road. It's an everyday thing that you work on, but that beginning is so difficult. The success rate of going to a rehab and staying sober after your first stint is very small. And so my point of saying this is like, you can't get discouraged. You can't think, damn, I can't do this. It's the second, it's the third time, it's all of those, but it's absolutely worth it. And I don't want to get like preachy or anything like that, but I've seen it, I've experienced what it can do for people and how it can change their lives. And it's genuinely giving people a second and a third chance. And that's wonderful. Also, for people that don't necessarily consider them an alcoholic, but have that in their life through other people, whether it's their parents, their siblings, their friends, there are meetings for those people. You know, I've been to Al-Anon, I've done a bunch of that stuff. I've talked to, like I said earlier, therapists for children of adult alcoholics, and it's so phenomenally helpful. I'm one of those people that I've been in therapy for like 14, 15 years now, and I was questioning how much of a difference and how much it was going to help me, because I've done so much work on myself over the last 15 years through therapy. Not that I at all think it's done, it's never going to be done, but I was wondering what the difference was going to be for that type of therapist or going to Al-Anon meetings, because I've talked about this stuff my whole life, and it was wildly different. You know, it's a much different perspective, and it helped me a lot. And you know, one of the main things that I took away from Al-Anon was relieving yourself of that burden. And that this is the one part that I'll really dive into a little bit, is a lot of people think when you stand up for yourself, when you're dealing with an alcoholic and removing yourself from that situation, a lot of people see it as abandonment, because it's either a loved one, a family member, or a friend, and you're like, but I can't just leave them high and dry. It is talked about a lot, how it's okay to, you know, let go of that person and to take care of yourself. It's a very, very, very important thing, and I'm going to say very more and more, because it is that important. And it's not abandonment, it's taking care of yourself. And I have seen a lot of people get lost, myself included at times, where you get so wrapped up in wanting to help that person, which is a wonderful thing, that you yourself start to be negatively affected in a phenomenal capacity. And that's, you know, not fair to you. So you talk about things with people, and it's just much different than if you are someone that has been to therapy like myself for a long time, where it's a different thought process, it's a different community of people, and hearing other people's stories is a big part of it. You know, a lot of what I've experienced through rehabs and Al-Anon and halfway houses and therapists that specialize in this, a lot of it is just listening and really starting to digest, you know, what other people have been through, your own experiences, starting to see how they compare and contrast, and then making those decisions of what needs to change in your life. Now, all of this is coming from a place of me getting messages from people for years now, talking about it, asking how I deal with it, you know, and down to things of like, what do you drink when you go out? Like, it's funny, and I'm not trying to like laugh and make it flippant, but those are things that make people uncomfortable. I don't know what I would order. I don't want to look like an idiot. You know, that's genuinely something that scares people. Cranberry club soda every time I go to a bar. Ginger ale. God, love ginger ale. It's so good. And so like when I'm at a house party or I'm at a bar, sometimes I get ginger ale. When I'm at dinner and I drink water like all day, every day, I drink ginger ale. When I'm at a restaurant and I want something with a little flavor, like my father, 32 years sober, Coca-Cola. That's his thing. Drinks Coca-Cola. You know, you figure it out, and it's absolutely fine. And what's funny is when I lived in LA for like 9 years, and there was a time in 2015 or 2016, I can't remember. And there was a time in like 2014 or 2015, I can't remember, where there was this group of guys and they threw a party every Wednesday night. That's all that matters. And it went on for months. Every Wednesday there was this huge party. And it got to the point where I remember people making fun of the fact that there was no mixers left. Because I'd walk into the kitchen and I'd just drink the orange juice or the cranberry juice, whatever the hell it was. So I started bringing just like gallons of juice and mixers for these parties, but no one cares. I promise you, no one cares about, what you're drinking at a party or at dinner, and so don't worry about that. I know easier said than done, but I've had a lot of people come up to me and be like, I don't know what I would order. You'll be fine. You'd be totally fine. Ginger ale. It's the greatest. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, a lot of it comes down to just feeling safe. And I mean, like, I drove everyone throughout high school, everywhere, for every single party. And I felt better about it. A, I was getting home safe, and B, everyone that I knew was getting home safe, which was great. And I still do that to this day, 12 years later, And what's funny is my mother is a year and a half sober now. And one of the comments that she made was, now that I don't drink, I realized that a lot of my life and planning was around timing, specifically timing for drinking. She would think about things in the aspect of, oh, well, it's going to be, 2 hours until, I get home and then I have a drink, or if I'm at an event, I'm going to be doing something and I'm going to have a drink or two, and then I have to wait like an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then I'm going to have to find a ride home and this and that. And now she just does whatever the hell she wants because it's never even a conversation of like her cognitive ability. And she loves that. She genuinely just feels more freedom in like how she can use her time. And like I said, my drink of choice, ginger ale, my father's Coca-Cola, my mother, tonic water with lime, Everybody figures out their thing. My mother actually drinks NA beers pretty often. I just hate the taste. I've tried them. I haven't found a good one yet. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. Because I like trying them just to see if they're getting any better, because there's things that I like to recommend to people. This was a long conversation. I'm certain I missed things, and if you have any questions or if there's anything that you want to, ask me about or hear about further, please let me know, whether it's like actual rehab facilities that I've worked with or therapists that I can suggest, recommend, or meetings, whatever. Please let me know, whether I know you or don't. Slide into my DMs. I will do the absolute best I can to help you as much as I can, because it is that important and it can be, a life-changing thing. So it's obviously something I feel pretty passionate about because I've seen both sides of it, the horrors that come with it, and also how wonderful you can come out on the other side. So that's all I got. Okay. Thanks for listening to me, rant for quite some time. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.